And you're live.
Okay, welcome everybody to Remax Live here in this month of December, and we have Andrew and Jay on here today from Zillow, and they're going to give us a few tips and tricks and everything about Zillow, and explain to us what Zillow is trying to do in the real estate marketplace, everything and everything today. So we're going to start out with a few introductions, and Andrew, why don't you go first, and then Jay can tell us about himself after that.
Cool. Thank you, Ford and Jamie and Elizabeth, for hosting this today. We're really excited to be on. And I guess just briefly, my name's Andrew Hafzalla. I'm one of the director of industry outreach here at Zillow, and been with the company about 5 years. Come from the real estate background. I've been an agent for 10 years in the Seattle market. Helped another online startup company as well in the real estate space here locally in Seattle, and then found Zillow about 5 years ago. I've worked in different capacities, anything from customer service all the way through managing our entire account management department. And now they're putting me on the road a little bit more. So excited to be here with you guys today and see what we can learn.
Fantastic. Jay?
I am Jay Thompson. I'm Zillow's Director of Industry Outreach. I started at Zillow almost 3 years ago. Excuse me. Prior to that, I owned a brokerage with my wife, an independent brokerage in the Phoenix, Arizona area. So owned the real estate brokerage for about 8 or 10 years. Joined Zillow 3 years ago. Kind of a dual purpose job. Part of my job is to act as a liaison between the agent broker community and Zillow. And internally with Zillow, I help our product development teams and people like that understand the broker agent mindset, what brokers and agents need out of our tools. And I'm happy to be here. It's fun.
Great. Yeah, definitely. No, thanks for joining us today. So we're going to just talk about a few things. And if anybody's out there and has any questions, please tweet Remax Live, hashtag Remax Live, and we'll be glad to get Jay and Andrew to answer those questions. Let's just start out with the big question, guys. What is the ultimate goal and mission of Zillow in today's real estate world?
Cool. Yeah, I can start. And it's an interesting question. I think we're at a time when I know we're doing a lot of national events around the United States and explaining this exact question to rooms and rooms and hallways and of different real estate professionals, basically explaining what Zillow is and what Zillow isn't. So it's a good place to start, which is the ultimate goal. And the goal on a real basic level is to continue growing our consumer audience and empowering consumers with tools and different ways that they can look for information on housing and rentals, mortgages, home improvement. And then in each of those 4 categories, we want to really match them with a local professional. So historically, just to give y'all some background as well, Zillow historically didn't have for sale listings on the site. We had listings with just estimates, home values, to the tune of maybe 30 million historically. And as we grew, we now have 110 million homes on the site. And now we have the majority of the for sale inventory as well, which empowers consumers. But when a consumer lands on a home that they're interested in, it's not Zillow that wants to show them that house. We have local experts in the field on the ground, and that's where we want consumers to reach out to. We want them to reach out to you guys to basically, show them the homes, sell them the homes, and empower you and the agent community with tools as well, whether it be a CRM or whatever you guys need as well. So half our product team focuses on consumers, half the product team focuses on the agent community and the real estate professional community as well.
That's great, and that's what we've been hearing with your conference from Vegas and everything, that our industry and our real estate agent is you guys think that we're more important to the deal than any time and ever before right now.
That's a really good point, Ford, and I think it's important to understand that real estate's changed, right? The last 10 years or so, there's a tremendous amount of data that's available to consumers, and consumers want that data. The problem is most consumers buy a house once every 7 years, so they get the data, but they don't really know and understand it or how to interpret it. So I think today's agent, their role has shifted a little bit. 10, 15, 20 years ago, agents were the only ones who knew where the listings were. They had the keys to the house, so you had to get an agent just to get inside the house. Well, now listings are basically ubiquitous. They're all over the internet. Anybody can find them. But where today's agents really going to separate themselves is by interpreting all this data for the consumer. We can throw data at consumers all day long. They need a professional to help them understand that data, what it means to them, and how to use it. And the real estate sales agent, the realtor, is the perfect person to be that interpreter of the data.
Yeah, that's great. That's great information, and and that's what we're trying to do, and we appreciate you guys giving us leads and helping us out on our side for sure. That was I just heard a lot of people talking about it after your all's conference back from Las Vegas. So, talk to us about the difference. Obviously, Realtor.com and Trulia being some big competitors. Talk to us about your all's product versus their product, and how you guys are above them, and why we should buy you guys.
Sure, I'll talk a little bit about that. Fundamentally, I think it's going to boil down to traffic and consumer exposure, and Zillow leads in that category. We have monthly traffic that's just about, if you add Trulia and Realtor.com together, but you get just about what Zillow equals. So we've got a large audience, and that's really important, especially when it comes to online internet advertising. I don't think it's going to benefit anybody for me to sit here and shoot down our competitors and say, why should you buy Zillow and not them? We all offer fundamentally the same type of thing, right? It's online advertising. You got a home listing, somewhere off to the side, top, bottom, you've got agents. When you get down into the details of things, sure, there's some differences. For example, Trulia sells their advertising products separately based on platform. So Trulia, you can buy desktop advertising and you can buy mobile advertising. Zillow combines everything into one account, for lack of better terms. And there's some philosophical reasons for that. Sometimes mainly it's just because it's easier. We feel our advertising agent should be exposed across all of our platforms. We made the choice to lump everything together, desktop and mobile. Some of our competitors separated out. Does it really matter in the end? Clearly, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later, mobile is super important. But it's hard to drill down and say Realtor.com is different than Trulia because of this, which is different than Zillow because of why. I mean, ultimately, the major difference is consumer audience, and we definitely got that.
Great, fantastic, and talk to me a little bit about the monthly and yearly hits that you guys get over to your site, and mobile, and especially mobile versus desktop in today's world.
Yeah, it's a good question. Years ago, there was definitely some conversations about mobile traffic and what that meant, and we started developing and building platforms on both Apple, Android, you name it, and we bet on, and we allocated more of the resources into development on the mobile side. And what we found is over time, sure enough, the mobile usage outweighed the desktop usage, and it surprised us, but we were prepared for it, and that was an important bet that we made. So our traffic in total, I think we peaked at 89 million unique visitors this year. That does include mobile and desktop, and that was our peak in the month of September, October, and if you break that down even further, you find some interesting stats, like 60 to 70% of all of Zillow's traffic actually comes from mobile. That's iPads, iPhones, tablets. These are folks shopping around on the weekends, likely in front of a house, and needing that immediate information. So they're out, they were just on Amazon looking for whatever, like a garden hose, and then the next thing that they're shopping around for homes or in open houses on a Sunday, where they're finding a listing they're interested in, they're contacting an agent locally that can provide them that assistance. So yeah, I mean, I think it's like 200 homes a second. I think Jay can talk more about that as well.
Yep, 200 homes per second. That's 324 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. 200 homes per second are viewed just on Zillow Mobile. And to put the growth in perspective, when Zillow went public, when they did their IPO and became a public company, about 6 months before I started working here, so it would have been three and a half years ago, Zillow went public, and the mobile usage was about 20 homes per second. So in just 3 years, it's gone from 20 homes per second to 200 homes per second.
Wow.
Mobile's where it's at.
Wow, that's impressive stats right there, and to really know that you got to get in front of the mobile game these days.
Yep.
That's impressive.
So what should our agents do to make sure their Zillow profile is the best it can be?
It's a great question. We always start off by saying you should have one. So it's as simple as going to the registration page and kind of registering yourself, your information. We have 700.
I think we lost Andrew there. Oh, there you are.
What's that?
You froze up there for just a second.
Okay,
Go. You're back.
Okay. So yes, I was saying we have 700,000 agents around the country that now have a free Zillow profile. And what that does is it does a few things. One is it enables you to become a part of our Zillow directory. So now locally, if home shoppers are searching in directory, you'll show up in that directory. But the second thing it does is it gives you an opportunity to brand yourself with a photo, like a high quality photo. You can ask and respond to reviews. You can add your past sales and add your service areas, add a bio. You can basically tell the consumer audience who you are, where you service, and start building a brand for yourself, and get testimonials and reviews on that profile. So as far as like what to do, first have one, and a big reason to have a Zillow profile is the connection that you have to your listings. So if you're a listing agent and you carry listings, you really want to be represented as a listing agent, and by creating a free Zillow profile and RE/MAX sending us direct feeds, then at that point you show up next to your listings as a listing agent, getting organic leads and contacts just because you show up right next to that listing. So
what's the difference between that and being a Zillow Premier agent?
Basically, Zillow Premier agent is what we call agents that advertise with us. So that's you may have heard the term buying zip codes, which is a little bit of a misnomer. But so a Premier agent is a Zillow paid advertising agent. You don't have to be a Premier agent to have a profile. Profiles are totally free. And we encourage people to create them, much like Andrew said, because that's how we tie your listing to you, right? We get the listing from a variety of sources, but if you don't have a profile, obviously we can't connect you to a profile that doesn't exist. But the Premier Agent program, whole different side of its paid advertising versus the free side. And to piggyback real quick on some of the things Andrew said, I think one of the keys to having your profile is making sure it's complete. There's a lot of incomplete profiles out there. Some people will just create them and say, okay, now I've got the profile, and that will get you showing up next to your listings, but you want to think like a consumer. So you want, when the consumer clicks through on your profile, you don't want them seeing a blank screen. So be sure to have an About Me section filled out, your current listings, your past sales, and I encourage people in the About Me section to make it more like an About You section. Tell the consumer what you can do for them. Does that explain, I mean, at the very high level, Premier Agent's a paying advertiser, and the rest are.
And on the Premier Agent note as well, I think locally we like to hyper localize the program. So these are agents. We have 700,000 agents with profiles. 60,000 of them are advertising on the site, and that means that they have purchased a zip code locally that they want to attract buyers and sellers from. And you show up on the majority of the listings in that zip code however many times a month you've contracted, basically. And so that just really briefly explains what the Premier Agent program is. And a lot of agents are converting a lot of Zillow traffic and buyers and sellers and consumers into actual commission checks, and we hear success stories about it every day.
Yeah.
Do you limit the number of agents per zip code?
It's traffic dependent, so we don't have a limit necessarily. But we keep very close tabs on how much traffic, and we guarantee a certain amount of impressions per advertiser, and we make sure and ensure that you reach that level of advertising. And if you don't, we actually prorate the monthly bill. So and we guarantee the exposure we say we're going to deliver, and if we don't, we prorate folks' bills.
Yeah, so it's kind of self-limiting in an effect. We know how much traffic a zip code gets, So we can only sell the impressions that that zip code gets. So, there's not a hard limit. We don't say 10 agents per zip code. It's traffic based, but we can't oversell. We can't sell impressions that don't exist. So in effect, the number of agents is limited based on the number of impressions to that zip code.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And you guys provide monthly stats and everything on those impressions and everything, right?
Yeah, right in your profile. So if you're a paid advertiser and you click that advertising button in your Zillow profile, it's going to break it down month by month, impression by impression, and as well as all the leads and contacts that you're getting.
Okay.
Listings, you'll get visibility into how many times your listings are displayed in the search, how many times they're actually clicked on in that search. It's quite a bit of data to absorb.
Great. And we actually had a good tip about a month ago about how it's very important to fill out as many free profiles as you can, and with you guys being one of them, you guys do a lot of the SEO, search engine optimization for us, so we need to fill out our profiles, get on and do that. Let me tell you, let's ask about this. Obviously, you guys get leads, and obviously, people can do reviews. What are the best techniques for getting reviews on your site, and what do you guys see? The big question is, how do you, once you get a lead, what do you do with it? What are the best techniques that you guys have learned about following up with these leads and how to get these leads to respond to you?
Those are really good questions. Gosh. What was the first part of the question?
Reviews.
The first part was the reviews part and how you guys get reviews, on the agents.
Right. Fundamentally, at its very highest level, you ask for the review. Right. Now, here's what I found though, and I talk to our premier agents, the advertising agents with Zillow. I talk to them all the time about reviews because they are so integral, and I consistently hear kind of the same themes from agents that are successful at getting reviews. And one is, other than just simply asking for them, a lot of it is how and when you ask for the review. The most successful agents that I've talked to tend to bake getting reviews into their entire process. So what I mean by that is, rather than you work with a client for weeks, sometimes months. Let's say you've got a buyer and you finally found them a home, you get under contract, you get all the way through closing, and you're sitting at the closing table. And this is where a lot of agents will say, hey, it'd be great if you would write me a review on Zillow. Okay. The problem with that tactic is that's the first time that client's ever heard you mention reviews. So you've gone through all this working together, now all of a sudden you're saying, write me a review, and the consumer's like, what is this review thing? What seems to separate the people that are really good at getting reviews is the ones that it's kind of an integral part of their business. From the very beginning of the relationship, they'll talk about reviews. And it's not that they're just clubbing their client over the head, write me a review, write me a review. It's just kind of in how they approach it. Here's a perfect example. I was talking to an agent that has almost 300 reviews on Zillow, and I said, how do you do it? And he said, I tell people right from the get-go that by the time we're done, you're going to write me a 5-star review because I'm going to give you 5-star service. And he kind of hints at it all throughout the process. And this is the perfect story he gave me. He goes, I was showing a home, for example, and I pointed out a water stain on the ceiling. And my client said, wow, I never would have even thought to look for that. You're awesome. So the agent said, that is what you're going to put in my 5-star review when we get done with this whole thing. So he kind of, as the deal progresses, he's always kind of reminding them, hey, there's going to be a review coming out of this, so that when he does ask at closing, it's not some big shock and surprise. Because their client knows it, they're expecting it, and they do it. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's great information. I like that a lot.
I'll just piggyback really quickly off that because that was a perfect segue into the ability to respond to reviews. So the first thing is find out your process, whether it's mutual acceptance. Every client might be different. Whatever your process is, and like Jay said, gear them up for that review during the course of the transaction. But then, we actually give agents the ability to respond to reviews on Zillow, and a lot of agents don't know that. So I want to make sure I mention that briefly, which is, in our world, and we all know how important reviews are, no matter if you're buying that garden hose or you're on TripAdvisor and you're researching the hotel that you're going to stay at, where someone may have said, gosh, the hot water didn't work and I don't know if I'll stay there again, where the hotel staff, the manager, is then responding. And that way a consumer, when they're sort of reading the information, positive or negative, the responder, the person who got reviewed, can actually enlighten them. One technique we're finding is that if Jay mentioned that water stain, you can then mention that in your response, or in your response, like, I really love working with listings. I'm so happy I got your listing sold within 5 days, highlighting the experience that you had in that transaction. Or I love working with first-time home buyers. Or thanks so much for moving to Bellevue from Portland. I love working with my relocation buyers. And that response is then going to go viral into the consumer audience. So as they're researching reviews, they're also reading the responses that agents are writing. And that's a really important tip that I think I see a lot of agents taking advantage of that these days.
Fantastic.
Can you send them the review like as a link, or is it something you have to put in front of them and they have to do right away? Or
it's a good question. So technically, how do you get reviews? And so built into the Zillow profile, there's 2 different ways to do it. One, we give a template, and you can do this actually if you download our mobile app. You can actually request reviews right from your mobile phone, as long as you're logged into your Zillow profile. And there's built in, we actually have a template that you can just use and customize, and you can send reviews right from your Zillow profile. That's one way to do it. The second way is there is a direct link. Some agents like to customize their own template, and they take the direct link that we provide them in the bottom of the review page, they put that into their own template, their own email, and then they send it that way. So those are the 2 real ways. But they're both built inside of the Zillow profile, so that's important.
Great.
Yeah, something else that I want to put out real quick, because this comes up a lot. So people ask all the time, why does Zillow require a review writer to create a profile? Why can't they leave an anonymous review? And we do. We require someone to create a profile before they can leave a review on Zillow. That's not to capture their information and get their email address and spam them. That's not why we do that. It's basically done to help reduce the gaming and the spamming of the review system. We know for a fact that if you have to create a profile, scammers and gamers are far less likely to go through the process of creating multiple profiles to create, for example, fake reviews for themselves, bad reviews for a competitor. We don't want any of that stuff in the review process. So by asking reviewers to create a profile, it helps cut down on that, on the gaming and the spamming of the system, which unfortunately is an artifact of any review system. And it's really no different than anything else. If you want to leave a review on Facebook, you have to have a Facebook account. You want to leave a review on Google Places, you have to have a Google account. You want to leave a review on Yelp, you have to have a Yelp account. You want to leave a review on Zillow, you have to have a Zillow account.
Yeah, that makes total sense, for sure. That's good info on the reviews. And to the other second part of that question, I definitely want to get your all thoughts on the $1,000,000 question is, how do you get the leads to respond to you, and what are the best techniques you guys know of and can recommend for following up with those leads?
Fundamentally, I think the first and one of the most important things is speed of response. You've got to respond quickly. And I don't mean in an hour or 2. That may seem fast. You need to respond in minutes, if not seconds. We have some tools that helps with that. Andrew mentioned our mobile app earlier. Another function of the agent side of that mobile app is the ability to set up autoresponders to get leads, and they come in, they're on your phone, you can respond immediately that way. The app has some tools in it to help with that. But if you talk to agents that advertise on Zillow, or really do any online internet lead generation, you talk to the ones that are successful at converting that almost 100% of the time, the first thing they'll tell you is you've got to respond fast. And then you can go into how do you respond, how do you follow up, but the step number 1, respond, and respond really, really quick.
Okay.
Yep. Couple other points on the lead generation. Well, the conversion part of getting leads, which is a huge topic, and we're doing everything we can. On our mobile app, there are autoresponders. We, and as a business, I think also want to just recognize that there are a lot of tools being built in the industry that are awesome. And agents across the entire industry are using Boomtown, Zerpal, Realty Juggler. Like, we don't care, to be honest, and I'll just frankly say that. It doesn't necessarily matter to us. Like Jay said, respond quickly. Some agents follow like a 3-touch-a-day tool, and then they put them on a drip campaign, right? So if you respond immediately and then you don't hear back, you respond again a second time, maybe you text. We have a lot of agents that are texting leads, and you're humanizing yourself. You're basically saying, I'm at dinner with my wife or my husband, like, I'm at this restaurant locally again. Would it be okay if can I call you back in 5 minutes? If you end with that question, the consumer is likely to be like, holy cow, I've been to that restaurant. Like, this is a real person, or I've met soccer practice with my kid. Like, you're a real local professional at that point, and you take the conversation outside of Zillow and you turn it into a conversation that you're having with that consumer. So first and foremost, humanize yourself, respond immediately. The second part of that I want to mention is what we call our Tech Connect program. So we're now partnering with about 45 different CRMs, and they're all built into your Zillow profile. You can see a drop-down list. From there, you can actually import all the Zillow leads that you're getting into the CRM that you're already comfortable using. And that's a conversion technique that a lot of agents are using because you like Boomtown, or you like these other systems that are actually working on your behalf outside of lead generation to convert, cultivate, put them on drip campaigns, put them on long-term follow-ups. We hear a lot of agents that say, I got a hold of that person on the 8th try. If you're at online advertising, you bet you're going to contact leads more than once. And that's a real thing I think a lot of agents struggle with, because I think they want to respond quickly, maybe one time, and that person didn't respond back, so I'll probably let them go. But the conversion might happen in 8th, might happen in 7th month if you put them on a decent drip campaign and you put them in the system that you're already using. So we feel really passionate about this topic. We don't like agents that advertise that don't want to respond quickly, immediately, and have decent follow-up strategies. So that's something we're trying to empower our agents to understand better.
Got you. In the Remax system, we use Reliance. You guys have any part in the CRM stuff of working with Reliance here in the future?
I will check on Reliance. I don't know if it's on our list yet, but I can find out, and I'll send you an email forward, and we can update the group here.
Great, fantastic. Let's go to this question. With more and more leads available in the marketplace lately, overall home sales are not completely increasing. What is the percentage of return business an agent or someone should expect relative to how many leads they're purchasing? What's your all's kind of rule of thumb, and what do you guys talk about in that world?
That's a really interesting question, and it's a tough question. It's hard to answer.
I bet it's a tough question.
if you look at conversion rates, the percentage of contacts that are converted into a client, those numbers vary wildly. But there's been lots and lots of research that's been done for years. Here's an example. When I was a broker, I used to distribute leads to my agents. And I would have agent A that would say, your leads are no good. I can't convert any of them. Agent B would convert at 8 or 10%, meaning 8 to 10% of the leads she got were converted ultimately into clients and commission checks. So you've got the same lead pool, right? The same source of leads. One agent's converting 0, and another agent's converting 10%. That told me as a broker, it's really not the lead, it's what the agent is doing with the lead. Agent converting at 10% is clearly doing something very different than the agent that can't convert any of them. So in those numbers that get thrown out through research and whatever, sometimes are shockingly and frighteningly low. You hear numbers like 2 to 4% is the typical conversion rate for internet leads, but then you hear other people talk about 6, 8, 10%. My personal experience, I think if you can convert at 10 to 12%, that's a world-class conversion rate. 4% may be typical, but again, there's so many variables, and it's so dependent on how fast the lead is first contacted, how is the follow-up done. I mean, there is a finite number of homes sold, right? There's only so many X number of homes are sold every year. So ultimately, there's a finite number of leads, but when you start getting into all that math, it just makes your head hurt. I think the important thing to consider is this: there's always going to be homes for sale. I mean, gosh, go back into the mid-'80s when interest rates were 18, 19, and 20%. People were still buying houses. People are always going to buy houses. There's always going to be interest in them, and there's always going to be contacts for you to work. So focus on your processes for converting the leads, increase that conversion percentage, and then you don't really have to worry so much about the counts and the numbers and things like that. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Conversion.
Conversion is.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say conversion is key.
Right.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, what after at a point when an agent's been working with you guys, at what point do they make a decision to buy more leads or less leads, or how do you guys see that happen?
Yeah, it's a good question. We have a large percentage of the business that we bring in on a monthly basis from our current advertisers. And what we find is that if the program's working for an advertiser, they want to buy more because they're seeing success. They're maybe adding a team member or an ISA or some a transaction coordinator, or they're building out a team. We've had many agents start off as individual advertisers and then grow into a team model, and that's a big focus for us as well. And so when is that right time? And ultimately, when is that right time to add somebody, or when is that right time to buy more? The buy more question, what we find is if you've sold a property, you only throw money at what's working, right? We're all marketing people. So if you are spending $300 a month and you finally made your first transaction that paid you X in commission that was maybe 2 or 3 times more than your annual spend on Zillow, you're probably going to then reinvest some more money and it grows from there. And so the majority of our agents do add more when they see a return. And by a return, I mean you've closed a transaction. It's also important to note that, again, folks have built teams off of the advertising. And so I was just in Florida 2 weeks ago with a gentleman who started 2 years ago in his 60s. And he had $160 that he had to borrow, he said. Now, 2 years later, we actually had him on a panel at our event, and he told his story of now he's a team of 10 and spending a considerable amount of money on not just us, but internet advertising in general, because they figured out a system on how to convert internet leads. So buying more, adding team members, I think really starts and happens when you see a return on your investment.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That's good information. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jay, on another topic, what's the best way to get training for agents and their assistants through Zillow?
That's a great question. I'm going to punt this to Andrew in just a second, but we have, there's a couple ways. First of all, the agent's rep, their sales rep at Zillow, is kind of their first line of defense or offense. The rep is, I hate to use the word coach because it seems to be overused lately, but a rep is also a trainer / coach. They're the ones that will be kind of the agent's or an advertising agent's first exposure to Zillow. So always ask your rep, ask them questions, ask them what you can do to improve, and a good rep's going to tell you what you can. But then we also have Zillow Academy, which is kind of our training wing, and this is where I'm going to punt it over to Andrew, because Andrew's just very recently basically taken over managing Zillow Academy. It's in a little bit of flux and transition right now, but I'll let Andrew talk about, not to put you on the spot, buddy, but just to talk a little bit about what Zillow Academy has to offer.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the Academy itself, historically, and a lot of agents have already seen results and taken advantage of it, has been a series of webinar-based education. So it could be a webinar on how to get more reviews or lead conversion or how to use Google Plus or something industry-related that we want agents to sort of benefit from. And so we're building that out for 2015, and it's going to be great. And it's, look for Zillow Academy to be a place where you can come and listen to both live and recorded, not just webinars, but information, news, like what's going on inside of Zillow. Or, for example, when we were in Vegas at the Agent Forum, we actually brought our director of email down there so that she could actually talk to the agent community about how to develop email marketing campaigns locally. So that's the director of email at Zillow, passing on information to local brokers. So we're going to do a lot more of that, like social media, email, like all the stuff that agents need to do in their own practical small businesses that we have experts on. So I'll be bringing in a lot of speakers on that level. And then ultimately, as Jay mentioned, you know, if you're advertising, you have like Zillow at your beck and call. I mean, we have both your rep and also your account manager. We have a lot of staff here to help you understand how to better maximize the program, your profile. If you're not advertising, look for a local event. You can always start by building a free profile. There's a lot of self-help tools on Zillow in our help center. We have this unbelievably large help center. Next year, we'll have a new resource center developed as well, and all geared towards agents kind of understanding not just how to work with Zillow, but also what's going on in the industry. So a lot of that's going to come down the road, but I definitely encourage a relationship with a salesperson or an account manager, and then we're spreading ourselves across the country. Next year we're going to go to almost 80 different cities, and locally come to a city near you guys as well, and they're called Zillow Summits. So when you get that email, and if you're a registered Zillow user, you'll get an email for a local Zillow Summit. Come and join us, meet us. We'll have a lot of information shared both there, and then you can meet someone locally or meet someone from Zillow locally that you can then take advantage of talking to later.
Fantastic.
I just had a question brought into me. Do you want to say something first, Jay?
I was just going to say real quick to kind of wrap that whole thing up. We want agents to be successful with our programs. And there's two reasons, right? One is because we just want agents to be successful, and part of it is selfish, okay? I'll fully admit it. Agents that are successful with Zillow advertising are more likely, this isn't rocket science, agents that are successful with Zillow advertising are more likely to keep advertising on Zillow. They're more likely to buy more advertising. So an agent's success is really almost directly linked to our success. So successful agents makes us successful Zillow, which makes Andrew and Drew happy, and everybody's happy. So agent success is super, super important to us.
That's great. Jay, what was that question?
Okay, it says, you said mobile is growing more than desktop. Have you broken out the cost of housing by the buyer? In other words, the mobile viewer pulling $150,000 to $175,000 property and desktop $200,000 to $250,000, or is it about the same? Are older people buying more expensive property, or are they using desktop or mobile?
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that. We being Zillow, we collect a tremendous amount of data. We have data on everything. One of the nice things about having 90 million visits a month to your website and your apps is you have the ability to collect tremendous amounts of data. I don't know that we've gone down to that granular a level. My gut feel is because such a big chunk of our traffic is mobile, 60 to 70% on weekends, I have a feeling there's not a whole lot of difference between mobile and desktop as far as home values and locations and things like that. It would be really interesting to know that, though, to look at things like generational differences, home price, is the mobile user more likely to be in more expensive neighborhoods? That would be really interesting to see, but I'm not aware that we've looked at it that closely. But again, so much of our traffic is mobile. I've just got to, I think it's relatively safe to assume that the types of homes that are being viewed are all across the board on mobile. And I know a lot of people say, oh, older people don't use mobile apps. I'm 54 years old, okay, I'm not a young spring chicken anymore. I'm probably one of the older people that works at Zillow, but I see my mother is on Facebook, okay? My mother uses the Zillow app. The nice thing is the apps are really user-friendly and they're super easy to use. So I think just the availability of smartphones, the ease of use of the apps has kind of leveled out a lot of the generational type of concerns. But I don't know the specific answers to those statistical types of questions, but it's a really interesting question.
Okay, great. Guys, we're pretty much at the end of the hangout. I got one more final question to end with and this stuff. In the meantime, I've got a bunch of links that Grant sent us that's sitting there with Jay and Andrew, and he sent me some links on how to create a Zillow agent profile, benefits the Zillow profile, things you can build your brand, how to get more reviews. So we will definitely get those emailed out to all our agents. You guys also sent us the link where you guys interviewed Dave Liniger, CEO of Remax, back at the Vegas conference. So we will.
Yeah, that's a really good video. That's Spencer Raskoff, the Zillow CEO, talking to Mr. Liniger, the Remax CEO. A really interesting video, so you should watch that if you get a chance.
Yes, definitely. We will get all these links sent out right after the hangout for sure to our agents. To finish up the hangout today, guys, you know, I just got one more question. Do you guys have any special partnership programs with Zillow and Remax? And tell me why you guys love Remax agents today.
I'll answer the second part of that question first. As a former broker myself, and I don't ever want to stereotype or lump everybody into specific categories, but I have, since the day I started selling real estate, not just worked at Zillow, there's something different about Remax agents. I don't know what it is, I don't know why it is, but to me, they come across extremely professional. And I'm not saying that other franchises, brokerages, agents aren't that way, of course they are, but there's something about Remax. I wish I could nail exactly what it is, but Remax agents are consistently really solid, strong people, strong performers, and good people. So that's just my opinion on Remax. And I think Dave Liniger is a genius. So back to the specials for Remax. Excuse me. We do have a program called Z Pro for Brokers, which allows brokerages and franchises to send direct feeds to Zillow. We do that for Remax. There's some benefits to that. It will kind of create a profile for you if you don't have a profile, but again, going back to our profile conversation, it's not going to fill out your About Me section. It's not going to fill out your listings and your past sales. It's basically just going to generate the shell of the profile. So even if you're at Remax, the Z Pro Partner Program has built you a profile. You need to go into that profile and flesh it out. What else does Z Pro do? Help me out, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, I think like Jay mentioned, Remax, a huge fan. We're a huge fan, a huge partner. I think it's the largest source of direct listing feeds that we get, and we prioritize your support as well. So we have a huge technical team that flushes out and has to triage and prioritize individual cases. And so part of the partnership as well is that we prioritize Remax technical issues as they arise and come in. And ultimately, as Jay mentioned again, Dave Liniger, I think it was a famous quote that he said, like, you know, it was like sort of if you're my partner, you're my friend, you know, and it was basically that's our commitment to Remax, but also our commitment to the industry as well. So we're always looking for ways to better our relationships and to further partner with you guys. And if there's anything else that we could be possibly doing, contact Jay or I, and we'll make sure it gets handled.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate all your all's time today. This has been great. I'm sure agents will love it, and we appreciate your time and spending some time with us today.
Thank you, Ford. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Elizabeth. We appreciate it.
Yep. It's been fun. Let's do it again.
Yeah, Jay, we'll check back in, and maybe we'll see you guys at the Remax conference in Vegas. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next year, and appreciate all the support.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks, you guys. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
All right.